My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And lots of people call the first Sonic the Hedgehog movie one of the best video game movies ever made. And that might technically be correct, but that says a lot more about the quality of video game movies than it does say about that movie, because it's mediocre at best. Jim Carrey's really entertaining, it's got some fun moments, but it's very generic and annoying, and it's just far from greatness. But I was surprisingly looking forward to this movie because the trailers really sold me on it. They made it look like it captured the spirit of the games, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm fully on board. So I was actually excited for this movie. And I was kind of shocked that it was coming out already because the first Sonic movie came out in February of 2020, and this movie's coming out in April of 2022. That's just over 2 years. That doesn't happen very often. But unfortunately, it shows. Everything about this movie feels like a rushed mess, and I was very much let down by it. But let's talk about the cast, beginning with Ben Schwartz. I think Ben Schwartz is a perfectly fine choice to voice Sonic, but he's just not given the strongest material to work with. There's just nothing he can do to elevate the weak material he's given. He tries his best, it works in moments, but it's just not enough. Colleen O'Shaughnessy, she voices Tails, and she also voices Tails in the video games, so Tails feels like the exact same characters, and Tails has never been a favorite character of mine, and that's still the case here. Perfectly fine for what the movie needed her to do, but not a standout. Jim Carrey was the standout to me in the first Sonic movie, and unfortunately, he's not able to recapture that same magic, because I didn't find him to be good in this movie at all. It feels like he wasn't given a script to work with. It just feels like the directors were just like, yeah, just do what you did last time. And it just feels like more of the same without adding anything new to it. And it just feels like his shtick's getting old here. I love Jim Carrey as an actor. I love Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I love The Mask, Liar Liar, Dumb and Dumber. Great actor, not his best work. James Marsden, I also really like as an actor, but he just comes across like a bumbling idiot in these movies, and I don't buy his relationship with Tika Sumpter at all. Like, they don't have an ounce of romantic chemistry. Then we've got Natasha Rothwell, and I just thought she was so annoying. Like, there's one scene with her character where you can tell that they think this is the funniest scene ever. And it was anything but. It was just so annoying, and I couldn't stand her. But the best part of this movie, without any doubt, is Idris Elba as Knuckles. When I heard he was cast as Knuckles, I'm just like, really? That's such a weird choice, but you know what? It really works. He really tried his best here, and it shows. He keeps this character grounded, and he was perfect as the straight man. He kind of reminded me of Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy, while still giving it his own unique spin, and I just thought he was easily the best part of this movie. I like the story in concept. I think it has a lot of potential, but the execution is a mess. The story of two different groups of people looking for this powerful treasure is really great. It could have been a fun treasure hunting movie with clues and maps, but this movie doesn't lean into that nearly enough. It just feels like wasted potential. Lots of the movies reliant on all these friendships that form, and not one of them works. Robotnik and Knuckles, you're just waiting for Knuckles to get backstabbed by him, and then for Sonic and Tails, they spend like 10 seconds together and all of a sudden they're best friends? I don't buy it for a single second. And so much of the movie's reliant on that friendship, and it doesn't work. And lots of the character work with Sonic here just feels like a retread of everything we saw in the first movie. There's nothing about his character that feels new. In fact, it feels like they backtracked on the character because he grew a bit by the end of the first movie, but then they dumb him down again so he can grow again. It just feels like a retread. I also think this movie at 2 hours long is way too long. In fact, the entire second half of this movie is a pacing nightmare. The last act especially. Like, the last act finds a way to kill any bit of momentum that was going on. Like, they were building to a great finale incredibly well. You've got this great, unique location. You've got the characters' conflicts coming at play. You are building stakes and tension. And just everything was building up to this fantastic climax. But then the movie decides to take the characters someplace else entirely, and it was the worst decision they made. What could have been a great, unique climax just turns into a generic, bland, overlong CGI mess that I couldn't have cared less about. Okay, but let's just get to it. The worst part of this movie, the absolute worst, is the human storyline. We are seeing a Sonic the Hedgehog movie for Sonic, not for James Marsden and his wife. And I thought they were perfectly self-aware of that, because in the beginning of the movie, James Marsden and his wife go to Hawaii to go to a wedding. And I'm just like, okay, that's a great way to write them out of the plot. That way we can focus on Sonic and Tails and Knuckles, and we don't have to worry about these bland, forgettable characters. Oh, I give the movie too much credit. Give the movie too much credit. Everything regarding the humans just shouldn't be here. I found lots of the introduction to that plot to be incredibly cringy. Like, there's one moment where a guy's cell phone keeps going off at the worst moments, and it's just like, oh, I hate this kind of humor. But they set something up early on, and I'm just like, there's a scene where James Marsden's character is playing a joke on the ring barrel, and I'm just like, oh, they're going to do this, aren't they? And I was proven to be right. What I predicted was correct. And I'm just like, this is so stupid and annoying. But right when I think I couldn't be more annoyed with this storyline, the movie just goes in this wild other direction that did not work for me at all. And I'm just like, wait, what is going on here? Like, what is happening? What? Like, it was so painfully bad. I was embarrassed to be watching that moment. It was awful. Absolutely awful. And even some of the other human characters are just completely unneeded. Like, Dr. Robotnik has this sidekick, and I forget if he was in the first movie or not. It's not the most memorable, but anytime he appears on the screen, I'm just like, why is he here? What is he adding to this movie besides one time? Get him out of here. He has no purpose. Write him out. And then there's another guy named Wade, who I think was also in the first movie. I'm not entirely sure. But whenever he appears in a movie, I'm just like, why is he here? Like, what is he serving the movie? Just completely unneeded. You could have gotten rid of those two characters entirely and nothing would change. And while you're at it, get rid of everything involving James Marsden's character. We do not need it. It destroyed the pacing and it just took away from the plot we were actually interested in. This movie is also not very funny. Now, I'm not gonna lie, there's a few jokes that I did laugh at, but this movie goes for 100 jokes a minute, and only few of them ever stand out. The vast majority of the jokes don't just not land, they absolutely fall completely flat. I'm getting tired of this trend where people just reference pop culture all the time. It just gets really annoying, it gets very repetitive, and it's just not clever or smart at all. There's a scene where Sonic is getting chased by Knuckles, and he's just like, oh, hello there, Winter Soldier. And it just reminded me of Deadpool 2, where Deadpool says the exact same thing to Josh Brolin's character. And it's just, I had the same issue with Deadpool 2. Just everything's a reference to something. Everything is just a reference to a movie or a popular band, and it just gets so overdone. It pulls you right out of the movie. And lots of the other jokes in this movie also didn't work for me. Any of the physical humor I thought was really cringy. It just feels like everybody with this movie thought they were this comedian. It feels like the director thinks he's the funniest guy on the planet, so he's trying to show it any way he can. It feels like the writers think they're hilarious and they're trying to show it any way they can. The cast thinks they're hilarious and they're trying to show it any way they can. It's just too much. It's just too much. And because everyone and everything is a complete joke, there's just nothing to get invested in. There needs to be some aspect of this movie to ground it in reality, and that's just lacking entirely. I also found the soundtrack in this movie to be awful. They just kept picking worse and worse songs that didn't really fit the movie at all, and it was just really cringy. There's one scene where Uptown Funk plays, and it's just, Really? I thought we were done with this song. And then it turns into this dance-off scene, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, this is so very bad. So very bad. Just like the first movie, I also found this movie had some very obvious product placement, and product placement is like politics in movies. It's there in every movie. But when you draw attention to it, when it's so obvious and blatant, then it takes me out of the movie, and that was the case with the product placement here. Like, they just mention a few Olive Gardens a few times, and it's just like, oh, they did this in the first movie. Like, what's with these movies and Olive Garden? Like, it's not even that good of a place. Like, if you're going to be blatant product placement, at least be blatant product placement for something better than Olive Garden, because I don't get it. The visual effects in this movie are really good in some moments, but really bad in others. There's a few times where Knuckles is standing in some spot, and then Dr. Robotnik comes flying into the shot, and it just looks so fake and so bad, and it just took me out of the movie. The visual effects are very inconsistent. And there is one more thing I want to mention. It's a slight spoiler. It's not like this movie has twists and turns. You know how it's going to play out, but if you really want to know nothing about it, then there's your warning. But I miss it when in movies, when the villain got an object that made them more powerful, that they actually did something interesting with it. Like, if you look at the Disney movies from the 80s and 90s, like, Ursula gets the power that she's always wanted, and she turns the king into this shivered up creature. She becomes a giant and creates this massive storm, and you feel the stakes, you feel the tension, and it's a fantastic finale. In Aladdin, Jafar gets the lamp, and he is so powerful and menacing and evil, and it is such an excellent final battle. And in this movie, Dr. Robotnik at a certain point becomes really powerful, and he just does nothing with it. Like, it just lacks any bit of creativity there. He gets all this power, the most power that you could ever hope to imagine. And what does he do? He just creates this giant robot? Like, that's it? It just shows a real lack of creativity. Look, it sounds like I'm shitting on this movie a lot, and I am. This movie is heavily flawed. I have a lot of issues with it, but it does have some good things about it. Like I said, I think the story had potential. I like lots of the elements that are there, but I think they're poorly executed. I think Idris Elba is legitimately really good as Knuckles, and there's a few moments where I was enjoying myself. There's a chase scene down a mountain, which I had fun with. And if you are a Sonic fan, you're going to love the climax of this movie. To watch Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles work together, you're going to love it if that's what you came to this movie for. But I don't think it's going to win over any new fans. The pacing in this movie is really bad. It's way too long. The way they handle the climax is just disappointing to me. I thought lots of the performances were bad. This movie is nowhere near as funny as it thinks it is. Kids might laugh. Anyone above the age of 10, not very often. The human storyline is so very awful. Like, it is so bad. You have no idea. Oh my goodness. This movie just didn't work for me. So I'm going to go ahead and give Sonic the Hedgehog 2 a 3.5 out of 10. Okay, have you seen Sonic the Hedgehog 2? What did you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon, and Gavin out.